Okay, today we are reading from the Transcendental Diary by Hari Sari Prabhu from October 1976 to November 1976. And it looks like the chapter is titled Sri Vrindavan Dham. He brought his letter to a close with a humble prayer. I am asking these questions for my self-purification. We've read this already? No, okay. Okay. In order to expand my devotional service by your grace. However, I am begging that you please don't let these questions upset your translating work, which is the heart and soul of your disciples. I just want to understand these points in your books so that I can properly represent you in this position you have given me as temple president. Srila Prabhupada was pleased to hear from one of his early disciples and praised Makhan Lal for his sincerity before answering his questions. My blessings are always with you as you have requested. You are a very good devotee and servant of Krishna. So far your questions are concerned. Nityananda is the principle of the Guru. So, the Gurudev is the incarnation of Nityananda. Anyone strictly following the instructions of the Guru is following Nityananda. The price one has to pay if he wants to become Krishna conscious is that he must dedicate himself to following the order of the spiritual master. Mahat Seva. If the spiritual master is pleased with disciple, then the blessings of Guru will be there. That is the best way to become Krishna conscious. And Krishna is non-different from Nityananda. You may pray to Lord Nityananda to help you become dedicated in the service of your Guru. Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved artificially. You should approach Nityananda Prabhu through your spiritual master. It's okay because we have a natural ending here. But it's interesting what was said, right? Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved artificially. And Prabhupada also says that in the purport to the Mahamantra, that Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. Right. Are there any, I guess somebody would like to say something about? Okay, cool. So, we move forward with the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, titled The Creative Impetus. Chapter 1, The Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata, verse number 14. Yadvachitantyang gunakarma dhamabhi. Sudastarar vatsa vayang suyojitaha. Sarve vahamo balimisvaraya. Prota nasiva dvipade chatuspadaha. Yadvachitantyang gunakarma dhamibhi. Sudustarar vatsa vayang soyojitaha. Sarve vahamo balimisvaraya. Prota nasiva dvipade chatuspadaha. Yadvachitantyang gunakarma dhamabhi. Sudastarai vatsa vayang yasuyojitaha. Sarve vahamo balimisvaraya. Prota nasiva dvipade chatushpadaha. Yadvachitantyang gunakarma dhamabhi. Sudastarai vatsa vayang suyojitaha. Sarve vahamo balim isvaraya. Prota nasiva dvipade chatushpadaha. Mataji's? Yadvachitantyang gunakarma dhamabhi. Sudustarar vatsa vayang suyojitaha. Sarve vahamo balimisvaraya. Prota nasiva dvipade chatushpadaha. Yat, of whom, Vachi, in the form of Vedic instruction, Tantyam, to a long rope, Guna, of quality, Karma, and work, Dhamabhihi, by the ropes, Sudustarahai, very difficult to avoid, Vatsa, my dear boy, Vayam, we, Suyojitaha, are engaged, Sarve, all, Vahamaha, carry out, Balim, orders to please him, Isvaraya, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Protaha, being bound, Nasi, in the nose, Eva, like, Dvipade, to the two-legged, driver, Chatuhu Padaha, the four-legged bulls, Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. My dear boy, all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions to the divisions of Varna Ashrama according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashrama Dharma, like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver pulling on ropes knotted to their noses. Purport. In this verse, the words Tantyang Guna Karma Dhamma Bihi are very important. We each get a body according to our association with the gunas, the qualities or modes of material nature, and we act accordingly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the four orders of the social system, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, are arranged according to guna and karma, their qualities and work. There is some controversy about this, however, because some say that since one receives a body according to the guna and karma of his past life, it is one's birth that determines his social status. Others say, however, that one's birth according to the guna and karma of his past life is not the essential consideration, since one can change his guna and karma even in this life. Thus, they say that the four divisions of the social order, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, should be arranged according to the guna and karma of this life. This verse is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Narada Muni. This version is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Narada Muni. While instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira about the symptoms of guna and karma, Narada Muni said that these symptoms must govern the division of society. In other words, if a person born in the family of a Brahmana has the symptoms of a Sudra, he should be designated as a Sudra. Similarly, if a Sudra has Brahminical qualities, he should be designated a Brahmana. The Varnashrama system is scientific. Therefore, if we accept the divisions of Varna and Ashrama according to the Vedic instructions, our lives will be successful. Unless human society is thus divided and arranged, it cannot be perfect. As stated in the Vishnu Purana 3.8.9, Vanashrama charavata purushena paraha puman Vishnu arajyate panta nanya tat toshakaranam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas. All of human society is meant to worship Lord Vishnu. At the present moment, however, human society does not know that this is the ultimate goal or perfection of life. Therefore, instead of worshipping Lord Vishnu, people have been educated to worship matter. According to the direction of modern society, men think they can advance in civilization by manipulating matter to build skyscrapers, big roads, automobiles, and so on. Such a civilization must certainly be called materialistic, because its people do not know the goal of life. The goal of life is to reach Vishnu. But instead of reaching Vishnu, people are bewildered by the external manifestation of the material energy. Therefore, progress in material advancement is blind. And the leaders of such material advancement are also blind. They are leading their followers in the wrong way. It is best, therefore, to accept the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in this verse as Yad Vachi. In accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra, and should be educated accordingly. Then his life will be successful. Otherwise, all of human society will be confused. If human society is divided scientifically according to Varna and Ashrama, and if the Vedic directions are followed, one's life, regardless of his position, will be successful. It is not that Brahmanas will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Sudras. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform, and their lives will be successful. The injunctions in the Vedas are explicit directions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example cited in this verse is that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils move according to the direction of the driver. Similarly, if we move according to the instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths of our lives will be set. Otherwise, if we do not move in that way, but act according to our whimsical ideas, our lives will be spoiled by confusion and will end in despair. Actually, because people at the present moment are not following the instructions of the Vedas, they are all confused. We must therefore accept this instruction by Lord Brahma to Priyavrata as the factual, scientific direction leading to the success of life. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, verse 23. Yaha sastra vidhing utrija vartate kamakarataha na sa siddhim avapnoti na sukhang na parangatim. If we do not live according to the injunctions of the Shastras, the Vedas, we shall never achieve success in life. To say nothing of happiness or elevation to higher statuses of living. Om Anjana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svaparantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami, who has established within this world the desire to fulfill the mission of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter at his lotus feet. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. Even if a person is mukam karoti vachalam, dumb, they can be made to speak very eloquently. If a person is lame, They can be made to cross over mountains. And even a blind person can be made to see the stars in the sky by the mercy of the spiritual master. All right, I'll read the verse one more time. My dear boy, so this is Lord Brahma speaking to Priyavrata Maharaj. Right, at the time I guess he's just a brahmachari, but Priyavrata Maharaj. Not just a brahmachari, he's a great devotee. My dear boy, all of us are bound by the injunctions to the divisions of Varnashrama according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must, therefore, carry out our duties of Varnashrama Dharma, like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver, pulling on ropes knotted to their noses. Okay. So there's this word here in the verse, balim, orders to please him. This is the translation, orders to please him. So if we read here, my dear boy, we are engaged, sarve, all, vahamaha, carry out, balim, orders to please him. So we are all engaged to carry out orders to please him. Him is with a capital H. It means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are all engaged to carry out the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is what pleases the Lord. So to please him, we are engaged. And it says here in the purport, these divisions are difficult to avoid. Now, whenever I have read the word difficult in Scripture, it just generally kind of means impossible. But Prabhupada doesn't use that word. He says difficult. So, I've heard very difficult also. So that's even more difficult than difficult. But it means that it's unavoidable. And it pleases Krishna. Right? This is spoken about in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Chaturvanyam Mayashrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasaha. So, it pleases the Lord when we act according to these divisions of Varna and Ashrama. And, I mean, why would that please Krishna? Well, for a few reasons, but one reason is that this construct, it's a construct, it's like a model. It's like a frame, it holds up a building. And it's meant for our benefit. It's meant to benefit us. All of society, so macro, on a macro level, on a big level, every individual in society, the whole construct of society, but also the individual personality. The individual is also meant to be benefited by this Varna Ashrama system. So Krishna has given it to us. It's a gift. It's a gift for helping us. So, you can just imagine in an analogy, an analogous way, that if your father or your mother gives you a gift and you use it, they're very pleased. The gift is meant to help you. And if you neglect it and throw it aside, then it's not very pleasing. Krishna is not very pleased. Your parents are not very pleased. So that's one point that's being made here. That it pleases Krishna when we take this. And Prabhupada says, so sometimes we're in a rush. The mode of passion sits in and we are in a rush to advance our Krishna consciousness. But as I already read earlier, as Prabhupada has spoken, I'm only repeating what he said, that you cannot force Krishna consciousness. It cannot be forced. You cannot rush it. You might be in a rush to be a better devotee, that's great. but you cannot be in a rush that you will advance your Krishna consciousness independently. You cannot do it independently. You have to depend on the mercy of the spiritual master. That is the only way. There is no other way. And that's confirmed a lot all over the scriptures. I think everybody knows that. We sing it every morning, right? The Samsara players. Gurvashtakam. So, we are sometimes in a rush to advance our Krishna consciousness. We're in a hurry. But if you simply follow the process that's been laid out, then if you are a Sudra or a Brahmin, if you follow the process, you will get the result, no matter what your position is. The result is Krishna Prema. You can chant Hare Krishna as a Sudra. You can chant Hare Krishna as a Brahmin. And you will get the same result, which is Krishna Prema. So it's not that this system is unfair to anybody. It's not unfair. It's not meant to as a method or a construct for denigrating or unterdrücking, pushing down other people. It's not meant to compare yourself with others. Oh, I'm a Brahmin. Oh, I'm a Kshatriya. I'm a Sudra. It's not meant for that. Because in this Kali Yuga, Kalau Sudra Sambhavaha. We are all born as Sudras. And by this process of Krishna consciousness, and the example is given, I believe it's by Sanatana Goswami, or maybe it's Srila Rupa Goswami, and I think it's in the Nectar of Devotion, but it could be in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. But the process, if you take bell metal, which is like considered a very cheap metal, and you treat it in these people that work with alchemical process. What is this kind of when you do something with alchemist, right? An alchemist or an alchemical process. Alchemist means you're playing around with metals and you're mixing things, minerals and stuff, elements. If you treat bell metal with an alchemical process, it turns into gold. And this analogy is used to describe how a person, though they may be born in a position less than a dog eater, right? Less than a Sudra, really low class. By the process of devotional service, they can be raised to the highest platform and they can achieve that desired goal, which is Krishna Bhakti, pure love for God. So this is not unfair. But it is actual all fairness, because it encourages us to understand what is our material conditioning. What is our material conditioning? Let me be honest with who I am. What is my conditioning? What is my nature? And let me act according to my nature. And then another thing that's mentioned here is that your nature can change. You can change your nature. And in the Bhagavad Gita, if it says that if you rise to the mode of goodness, right? It doesn't say pure goodness. It says the mode of goodness. Sura Sattva. By rising to the mode of goodness, you become free from your sinful reactions. Right? What does it mean, sinful reaction? So, I perform some activity, desiring to enjoy the fruit of that activity. That's sin, because it's without Krishna. It's selfish. But anyway, I perform some activity with a desire to enjoy, and I get entangled by that activity, by a seed planted within my heart to perform that same act again. That seed of desire is now it's a chain. I was reading about this morning in the Nectar Devotion. Now somehow I'm chained to another form of sinful activity. I have now another desire, or maybe at least one other. Right? So now I'm getting further and further engrossed in this chain of sinful activities, this karma. But by this process of right, so this Anyway, I was going somewhere with that, but I just kind of forgot. Oh yeah, right. Rising to the mode of goodness, nectar Bhagavad Gita. We can rise above these. We can get beyond that. We can escape our karma from previous activities. By rising to the mode of goodness, we don't have to be like gripped by that mode of passion and ignorance to again repeat sinful activity, addiction, criticism, controlling, lording it over, right? We can become free from that if we cultivate the mode of goodness. That's why this is the highest science. Raja Vidya, right? It's the highest knowledge. King of education. It's these people, they are doing their science anyway. I won't, but it's really, this is scientific. Because if you rise to the mode of goodness by treating, right, by exposing your senses to things in the mode of goodness, objects of senses, which are in the mode of goodness, by eating food, prasadam, right, that is sattvic or pseudo-sattvic, it's transcendental, right, by hearing music, right, in the mode of goodness or in the pure state of goodness, by seeing the Lord, the form of the Lord. This is not a material creation. It's pure goodness. It's transcendental. Then we become slowly rising to the mode of goodness. That's a process, and it's scientific. Scientific means, Jai Shishi Vijay Gauranga Dharanitai Ki Jai. Scientific means that when you apply a certain process, you get a certain result. You can depend on that. That's what it means, scientific. You depend on it. It happens time and time again in a controlled environment. This field of activities is a controlled environment. And if you watch and you look, you see that people, when they associate with the mode of ignorance, they slowly glide down into the mode of ignorance, further and further. It's scientific. But when they, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, when they happen to have just a little bit of association, because they have to be a little bit humble, right? A proud person cannot hear from others. Very difficult. Because they already know the answers. They're independent. They know. I already know. I don't have to hear. I already know. That means they can't hear. Too much is in there already. Too much ahankar. Filled up with ahankar, They're really feeding that ego really good. Eat good, ego. Eat good, stay strong and healthy. Remind me of how I'm a great devotee. Remind me of how I'm a great materialist. So they cannot hear. So you have to be humble. It's required. Humility is necessary to achieve knowledge. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, verses 8 through 12. The first element of knowledge is humility. And Prabhupada defines humility as not being anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Right? It's very tricky. You've got to meditate on that. We all having this anxiety. We're looking quickly, like I know sometimes I'm in a rush to get in the prasadam hall. Oh my gosh, you don't know how it is. I'm like, I can feel it, the passion is like, boom, I want to get my plate and I want to go. And then I'm there and I'm like, there's a long line and I'm like, I've got to wait. And it's like, good. Thank you, Krishna, for teaching me patience right now. And that's what that anxiety, except we're anxious to be honored. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? I don't give examples, but it's out there. Right? I'm an important person. Don't you know who I am? Recognize me. That's called the opposite of humility. So if you have that, you will not get knowledge. You can hear every day Srimad Bhagavatam. You can sit in front of the deities and pray to Lord Chaitanya, please help me remember you. And then you go on the side and you perform your duplicitous activity, your crooked behavior. What are you doing? Right? Very difficult to make advancement like that. It's sort of like trying to light a fire while pouring water on it. But on another part of this purport, something very interesting is also it's all very interesting, but this is something very interesting I find. People are confused. Now, this is great. We can talk about this. Right? We can talk about the society of bhaktas who are aspiring to perfect their lives. They are like patients in the hospital who have recognized their illness. We are patients in a hospital. We shouldn't forget that. Even if you're purely, on the highest platform of devotional service, at least pretend, because it confuses people when you don't. Acknowledge that we are patients in a hospital. This is important to understand. We are sick. We have skin disease. We have big ahankara, like a cancerous growth on our shoulder. This ego is like a big cancerous growth. Yeah, it's just kind of Krebs, yeah? It's getting bigger and bigger. The more you feed it. That's what we have. We have to cut it off. Right? Sadhu, cut. But then it hurts so much. And we bleed to death, maybe. So it's a very difficult operation. Yeah? Cutting that ahankara. Very difficult to do. But an expert person can do it nicely. And some people are lining up, please cut off my ahankara. I don't mind if I bleed to death on the floor in the temple room in front of the Lord. My life is perfect. Please cut it off. But now there's something else we can talk about also. People are confused. They are confused because they don't have knowledge. They don't have knowledge about something so simple as varna ashrama. They lack this construct. Remember the frame construction. This word construct, it comes from this, also you can think construction, which is also like what holds up a building, the frame, a building. It holds up society. Varna ashrama is meant to hold up society, but it's lacking. It's not there. In a perverted reflection, it's present in some places. But that varna ashrama emphasizes birth. Right? But this is not about birth. There's no janma in chaturvarnyam maya srishtam. It's guna karma vibhagasaha. No janma there. No birth. That's Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, verse 13. No janma. So in a perverted reflection, it's present in some places, but in other places, it's not present at all. And by practical example, people are worshipping rock and roll stars. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, these are musicians. They're sudras. Don't pay them a lot of money, give them used clothing. That's what Scripture says, I'm sorry. Because they misspend their money, and that practically is seen. They misspend it on intoxication, and they sexually exploit others with their fame and their fortune. That's why you don't give them. They're low class. They don't have advanced. It's okay. They're people also. We want them to go back to Godhead. But they're being given every facility to cause a nuisance to society and a gross platform. And so it's no wonder that people are confused. They're why are we doing this? Why are these people who turn around, they're engaging in so much misbehavior, intoxication, they're raping women. There's one football player, he was a quarterback for some other team in the NFL, but anyway, he had a record that wasn't pleasant in mistreating people, women. But he was being glorified. I mean, what happened here? So people are confused. And they are rightly confused. But we have this knowledge we can give them. But we have to practice it ourselves first. Really, this is important. Everything leads back really to what I can do for my own, if I want to preach, let me preach by my behavior. There's a Entsagung, I know it's not Entsagung, anyway, Asaga. There's a quote attributed, to Saint Francis of Assisi. He's also a devotee of God, Krishna, but he wasn't knowing about Krishna. Anyway, Jesus Sampradaya. There's a lot of breaks in that, but nobody's criticizing. He said that always preach the gospel, right? The gospel means Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These apostles of Jesus who preached, He says always preach the gospel. If necessary, use words. So devotees are very humble, supposedly, right? It's one of our qualities. Meek and humble. Show me humility. What does it look like? Show me with your behavior. So let me try to show you with my behavior what it means to be humble. I will try very hard. I'm still trying. It's a process. What's nice about it is I can feel within my heart so many things are leaving. Unwanted things that I've accumulated for lifetimes of births in this material world, associating with the material nature, thinking that I should worship the energy of God that is temporarily manifested in different forms, continuously mutable. It's changing, in other words, all the time. So I'm thinking I should worship, and here I see only things which are spiritual because it's a temple room. So that should be happening. But of course, everything, Lord Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he said, you should see the world as a paraphernalia plate. All of it is paraphernalia for worshiping Krishna. Everything. Those cars in the street, the boga in the supermarket, the buildings, when you go and get this IMF, I got an IMF. I didn't know I had an IMF, but I have an IMF. What is it called? Like an antibiotic? This like vaccine, right? That can also be everything. These scientists, I think they're not so strong that they can circumambulate the will of God. So there's no imp stronger than the bhakta. But I don't want to go off on that. It's kind of political. Anyway, the point I want to make really is better than that, is that we have an obligation to preach by our example. That's first. First become perfect and then you can, along the way, even if you're not perfect, along the way you can help others to get there. But you should try. Try being sincere. What can I really do to be a better devotee? Really? How can I engage in a manner that shows by my example what it means to be humble? Right? I remember joining the Hare Krishna. Anyway, I don't want to tell too many stories, but I'm running, let me read these more purports so I can, there's something here. There's a question? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. Sorry. Thank you. It's not the first time I've been told that. I should slow down. All right. Yeah, I guess this is important right here. I said it, I'll say it again. It is not that Brahmanas will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Sudras. Right? That's important. Right, so we have a temple here, and in this temple there are all different kinds of devotees. And we all do different services, right? And we tend to identify our nature according to the service we perform. And what can happen is that we can think we are better than others because we have a certain service, right? We might think, I'm better than all the others because of my service. Because the service I'm performing is supposed to be for people that have a higher nature, qualities. But that's not what we do in Krishna consciousness. We don't compare on the material platform. Actually, we're not supposed to compare at all. In Scripture, it talks about how we should treat others. If we think that somebody is less advanced than we are, then probably we're not looking at ourselves very well. But even if it happens, in Scripture it says we should be kind to those people. We should have mercy. Mercy doesn't mean that you instruct them. with words. Because example is better than precept, than Anweisung. And also, if you're at all interested in performing austerities, in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it describes austerity of speech. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that you should not instruct somebody who is not your student. And just because you're advanced doesn't mean everybody's your student. In the Manu Samhita, and I don't know where, in fact I never read it there, but I heard it. I read it, I think I read it cited. It says that you should not give advice to people who aren't asking for it. Right? If they're asking for advice or they're not asking and you're telling them how to do something, that's you're not supposed to do that because it's not an austerity of speech. Hare Krishna. Looks like he got the orange. Du hast die Orange gegangen. Cool. Hare Krishna. Right. Because that is not us. So that's very important to remember. Sometimes we think that just because I'm a Brahmin or a Kshatriya by nature, of course, hasn't everybody noticed? I'm a Brahmin. I guess nobody noticed. Anyway, I don't notice that myself. I don't feel that way most of the time. But the point is that even if you feel that you are, it doesn't give you a right to instruct others with your words. You can instruct them with your activities. Because actions, right, are more instructive, behavior is more instructive than words. Especially if you say one thing but act differently. And I won't take any more of your time. I know it's early, but I'm sorry. I don't want to jabber around about nothing. I'll be very honest with you. That, of course, we could look into this, but I think it's a good time to end the class, unless there are questions or comments. Yes, sir.
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
Because it was mentioned we can't make any advancement without the mercy of the Guru. Also, then it's coming in my mind that Prabhupada also saying, I have no personal qualification, I'm just carrying out the order of the Guru.
Thank you. That's a very nice comment. Thank you very much. That's an excellent comment, actually. That's so true. And I would just add to that, if you don't mind, that whatever advancement we make in spiritual life is completely a function of our surrender to the spiritual master. Completely. Nothing else is there. Period. And that's the conclusion of all Vedic literature. Yasya Devi Tata Guru Tata, this is this verse, right? Yeah. One who has complete faith in the orders of the spiritual master, all the imports of the Vedas are automatically revealed. And, yeah, anyway, so that's good. Thank you very much for making that comment. Yes, sir?
You were saying that if it's not your service, Prabhupada said you shouldn't try to give advice, or only if people ask you for advice?
In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th chapter, in the commentary to the verse that talks about austerities of speech, Srila Prabhupada says, you should not instruct people who aren't your students if it will disturb their minds. So Prabhupada said that, I just repeated. So what would you like to comment or a question? Or?
The question would be so the detail was if it disturbs their minds, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If it will disturb their mind.
No, my question would more be usually it's also said that when people tell you to do something or do something better, you should just humbly accept it.
And that's the other side of the coin, right? See, there's two sides of this. There's one who's instructing, and there's one who's receiving instruction. If a person is instructing, right, somebody who is not their student, then they're not practicing austerity of speech. But that is not our concern. Why should I be concerned with the offenses of another person? Why? I'm not God. I'm Bhakta, little Bhakta, little Bhakta. Kinkaram, right? Maybe I can be a speck of dust on the lotus feet, if I'm careful. Why should I be concerned with the offenses of another person? It's not my concern. That's one side of the coin. The other side is that, amanena manadena. Let me offer all respect to everybody else and expect no respect for myself. So, if I'm expecting people to respect me, then I will expect them to acknowledge that I'm not their student. They don't have a right to correct me, or I'll expect them to, treat me in a certain way. I'm devoid of envy and the passion for honor. I will have some anxiety to be honored, to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. But we don't want that if we want to chant nicely. If you want to make spiritual advancement, don't cultivate that. That'll get you out the window. Krishna will make an arrangement for you to find your happiness somewhere else. So, we shouldn't judge, now you're lucky, don't you know Bhagavad Gita? 17th chapter, were you listening in class this morning? Instead, we should be very humble and accept. And Krishna, that is called advancing your spiritual consciousness, your spiritual constitution. You slowly start to advance. Krishna is pleased with those devotees who are very humble, who never complain, who don't... Of course, sometimes, anyway, what pleases a devotee, you can find it. That person is very dear to me. It's in the 12th chapter. So many verses are there. That person by whom no one is put into difficulty, mental difficulty, physical difficulty. No one is put into difficulty. That person is very dear to me. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So, as you were saying, sir, yes, we should be very humble. We should not think, oh, look, you're not following. Obviously, you don't know 17th chapter Bhagavad Gita. We should think, oh, because I'm a patient in this hospital, this person is also a patient in this hospital. Because of their association with material energy for so long, right now they're acting in a drunken state, a state of intoxication. They're intoxicated by material energy. But they're bhakta, and they're worshipable. Even if they're performing devotional service in the mode of ignorance, they're worthy of worship. And that's written in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 29, verse 8, in the purport. Yes, sir?
Does it make a difference if you have a close friendship with a devotee?
Yeah, you kind of have to use your discretion about these kind of things. Also, this is a good question though, so I will elaborate. This is a nice question, very good. You have to use discretion, but one thing I can say is this. Speech in Bhagavad Gita, right? Austerity of speech. It should be pleasing and beneficial, and it be truthful. Right? So how do you accomplish all three of those things? Right? Truthful and pleasing. You have to be very careful and very humble. You have to be very humble. How you approach somebody with a lot of humility. My dear friend, in a private place, my dear friend, I have to tell you something. Please don't be offended. I value our friendship so much. Remember how you did this for me, and you did that for me, and we went here and we did this. Please, I need to tell you something. And then you go like that. So be very tactful. Use intelligence, and if you can't, then don't. Wait. Krishna will correct them. He's the supreme controller. Karana Karanam. Right? Of all the causes, He's the supreme. Cause of all causes. He can do it perfectly. He will get somebody to do it nicely. Either from within the heart or outside by the material energy. Some other questions are there? It's okay?
Yes.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
If you have some responsibility,
This,
then it's different. tell people how to behave or how to...
Yes, thank you very much. I didn't say that, but I thought to myself, shouldn't you be saying that? Thank you for mentioning that. And so, Dhara Mataji has said that if you have some responsibility, right? If you are responsible for some project, for example, there's a deity department, there's a kitchen, there's somebody who's cooking a feast for Krishna, and there's somebody who's responsible for how that feast turns out. There's somebody who's responsible for how the deity is worshipped. We have a temple commander. He is responsible. He has to instruct. That's his responsibility. It's his service. It's his service. If you have a responsibility and you're responsible for something, you are obliged to instruct to that end. You're obliged to instruct people in a manner so that you can carry out your service. If it's in the kitchen, on the altar, wherever it may be, you are obliged. It's a flict. It's obligation. You are obliged. You have to do that. You have to. But still, you have to also, it's okay, you don't have to, but it's always appreciated if you can do it in a way that's pleasing to others. Pleasing and truthful, Truthfulness is important. It's a principle of religion. There's only 4. One of the legs of the bull, Dharma. The last leg. Try to keep it intact, right? Yeah, it's important. I'm reminding myself of that importance of truthfulness, not you. I know you're all very truthful. I'm preaching to my own mind. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Actually, there is a danger to give good advice to foolish person, but Shanaka Pandit. If you give good advice to a foolish person, he become angry.
Yeah, that's true.
Therefore, you must be careful.
Yeah.
Before giving good advice. Because in Kali Yuga, Manda Sumanda Matayora.
Right.
So many foolish person. And
Sumanda even. Sumanda. Very, very disturbed, very unfortunate.
You want to just help him and he become angry.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada said, like working tribunas. Because they would want to accept voluntarily scriptures and holy persons. And Maya teach them by tribunas and 3 clashes. Durga, Trishula, like animals, yeah, bull, this sloka today. Because this animal food, and people must have, if you want to force this animal, because they don't understand your word, people must beat. And if people don't understand instruction from Bhagavad Gita, from Parampara, then gunas beat them, and other things. If you repeat 3
Yes,
times something,
yes, sir.
and this person not accept, means he is full, otherwise he is just ignorant.
Or what?
Ignorant.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you to say something about Narahari Sarakara Thakur.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm not well versed on the saints of Vaishnavism, Vaishnava saints, not all of them. I know only a few, and I can't say anything nice about Sarakari Thakur, but can you? Narahari Thakur?
There is disappearance there.
Yes, I'm aware. Can you say something nice about him?
No, no. He's a great devotee.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. Even before meeting with Lord Chaitanya, he made nice songs about Radha Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
And he was with Lord Chaitanya Janakapuri.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly with Gadadhara Pandit.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, Lord Nityananda met him, and Lord Nityananda said, "We know who are you?" Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So where is mother? Where is mother? Where is honey? Because Narahari Sarakara Thakur is in Krishna Lila's Madhupati, Gopi Madhupati.
Oh.
Gopi arranged Madhu honey.
Oh, wow.
For Radha Krishna. And Chaitanya Lila, he usually offered chamara to Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, like we thinking
Harikori Chamara Dulaya. Oh, nice. That's good, thank you.
And Lord Nityananda said, where is Madhu?
Where's the honey?
We know.
You know who you are.
Where is Madhu? And that time Narahari Sarakara was carrying a pot of water, and he changed this water
into honey.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was mystical.
That's cool.
He samadhi someplace nearby Radhakunda, but not easy to come in.
Thank you.
We have Vaishnava calendar, yeah? And even in the Hindi, it's a program. And this is important actually, to know about these persons in our line. And appearance day, disappearance day, even once in a year or twice, appearance day. It's good to read a little bit about their life, this holy life, a good example.
Thank you.
Like this we can follow step, yeah? Mahajana Supanha is the secret of success in spiritual life.
Yeah.
Not just, doesn't matter, somebody was in, and sometimes I'm asking devotees with a few years practice in temple, do you know who is here, Parampara? They don't know. They don't know, even close Hashem. But if you read the word Bhasanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so bright person, so good example, this big source of inspiration. And this is our thank to this person. Otherwise, doesn't matter. Who was I heard this is main reason, main signs of degradation Kali Yuga. People doesn't care about previous people, even from their family. Not many people know about grandfather. I don't know about grandfather. I know some about grandfather. Signs of people who belong to Vaishnava, Vedic culture, they know many generations before. The signs of culture people, not just animal. I'm eating, sleeping, it doesn't matter who's my father, mother, and like hawks and dogs that can do sexual activities. And our family is Sampradaya, spiritual family. We must know about previous acharyas. They even reject the guru. They're using guru like, how to say, step. Then, I don't need push away. This is my life. It's impersonal. Doesn't matter who appears and disappears this day. But literally, it's a big inspiration.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Karantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Narahari Thakur Vishanu Mustad ki jai.
Ki jai.